it's one of the largest pieces I've done in the last 15 or even 20 years. The largest piece I've done ever. And it was really particularly fun to work with like the tiny pieces, you know, the 1 by 2 inch or 2.5 inch pieces, and then this one like on the same day, and go back and forth and just sort of mess with my own head regarding scale. You know, it's like I noticed there's this guy at Venice Beach who puts your name on a grain of rice, and I figure if I do any more generations of those little bunnies, that I can subcontract with him. And have, you know, although that would pose a pricing problem, right? What do you, how do you price a work of art that's microscopic? You know, it's like, oh no, the maid dusted. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, this piece is called Silver Bullets in the Garden of St. Augustine. And like a lot of my work, it harkens back to a number of visual forms that give us, I think, give us our culture and our sense of identity and our politics and our social relationships, and that is narrative and storytelling. And there's a writer named Elizabeth Gross who talks about, this is sort of a paraphrase, but she talks about the original or originary architectural gesture, making a door, which sort of immediately maps the world, the visual world, from inside to outside. And since then, we've sort of inherited this quadrangle. On the other side of the quadrangle is space where we imagine stories to happen. And everything from like the history of painting, habitat dioramas, wildlife calendars, field guides, war photography, pornography, movies, TV, cartoons, all these quadrangles sort of give us this imaginary space that stories happen in.
How do you do it all?
I actually teach too. I'm a professor at the University of Illinois.
Another question.
I love teaching. It's so much fun. And working with art students is really energizing because they are, man, talk about atypical neurobiology. You know, they are, and you know, what a great thing to go in the classroom and I'm confronted with 20 people who think completely differently than anyone else. And it's my job to get them to name their obsessions so that they can deploy their content in the world productively and in a way that's legible to other people, which is really a fun job. So, and then I only have one kid, which makes it a lot easier from what I understand. And he's a guy, so that I also understand that makes it easier too.
Yeah.
Do you teach studio art, or do you teach history of art?
I teach studio art, but I also teach like theories of art. I'm really interested in theories of visual culture generally, because just the visual culture is so reflective of human propensities and human cognition, but also it is so organizing of those same things. So it's like our visual culture is as much our habitat in a chemical way as the ecosystem is. So theories of visual culture, how it gets deployed or articulated or manifested in contemporary art, but also popular culture, advertising, children's entertainments. So I'm just like, I kind of love all of it. So, and when I teach the theories of contemporary art courses, I usually include visual culture generally, because actually most art students aren't really too interested in like sort of advancing the professional expertise complex of contemporary art. They take it in from all sources. They just pay attention to whatever bakes their tubers, you know. They just pay attention to whatever, and that's really interesting too.
Would you talk more about your technique and also about, so do you don't create this as you go along on the canvas, you've pre-planned it, or that's your process, your specific process?
I've pre-planned it to the extent that I just sort of, I imagine them. I don't do any preliminary sketches or anything like that. I go right on the canvas. I approach the canvas, I make the canvases, and then I usually do a drawing on them, particularly with the large canvases. I draw in charcoal, And I do that, I plan them out really to within an inch of their life, because if something on a large, like on a scale that big, if that alligator tail is in the wrong place, it takes a long time to fix it, if it just bugs me. And I'm not diagnosable, but I am on the spectrum for OCD.
Are you working on a white ground?
I work on a white ground, but usually what I do, after I know that everything is compositionally, you know, makes my teeth hurt. It's like this one actually has a pentimenti in it. I had to change the angle of the alligator tail, and I had to do that at the last minute. It was like, yeah, but you know, it was wrong. It was off by about that much, and I couldn't. Yeah, I can't stand it when there's a bug on my windshield either. Description I have for the way consumer capital and the global economy is so enormous and so diverse and so productive, and there's just so much stuff in the world that all of it, no matter what the human cognitive propensity or the human desire or the human need, there is something out there that describes the most basic human needs and the weirdest human needs. There is like a niche market for everything. And it's like global material culture. If you look at material culture, it describes who we are. The best of us and the worst of us, and the best that's in us and the worst that's in us. So it's all there. So the Candy Planet is this sort of wry sort of description of our world in which everything or anything we could possibly want is there somewhere. You know, whatever your candy is, you'll find it in the way we do things. So it's like this is that's what we've made. We've made our planet the Candy Planet because candy is what we want. If that makes sense.
And where does color fit into all of that for you?
The idea that when I look at what the world offers me, what the manufactured world offers me particularly, and what the natural world offers. Have you ever read Michael Pollan's Botany of Desire?
I haven't read it.
Did you heard it?
I know it.
Yeah. He talks about how plants have seduced human beings into aiding them ecologically and biologically, like the fact that flowers give us visual pleasure, have aided in the distribution and success of flower species. Certainly flowers do that to bees neurobiologically, you know, and birds neurobiologically, but they do that to us too. We're visually, you know, pleasured and stimulated and excited by that kind of color. And certainly when I go to the supermarket, I recognize that I'm seduced by these things. And you know, being a mom, you know, Charlie is actually really hyper aware of healthy eating and stuff because of the program that I did, even though he wasn't at that school anymore. I had to wait till he moved on. I didn't, you know, Illinois, conflict of interest, it's almost like the two are interchangeable. I didn't want that there. I use actually something called Eco House Extra Mild Citrus Thinner, which is a great product. It's like it's orange oil and food grade orange oil and isoparaffinic mineral oil, and it's not a great solvent, but it's not dangerous. I mean,
it smells good.
And it smells good. You'd probably stain your carpet if you drank it, but I mean, it's not like, you know, really toxic.
So are some of these creatures supposed to hark back to prehistoric days, or?
Yeah, I mean the reptiles. The animals always function allegorically. I choose the species for what they mean to us, and what they mean to us is often derived from how they behave to a certain extent, and then we you know, sort of project intentions or consciousness or agency on them, like the way in which bunnies are seen as being innocent, or butterflies are seen as being sweet. You know.
Yeah, some of these look pretty vicious, yet they're pretty quiet, which kind of makes them a little bit more benign.
Yeah, the semiotics of whiteness is like definitely includes that.
Salvador Dali had that attitude. he would take something beautiful, like a portrait of a beautiful baby dressed in lace, and then put a rat in its mouth and strip it away.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like the idea, or I mean, the rat is also a good example of an allegorical animal. They're actually pretty bright and apparently very trainable and nice creatures, but or serpents, you know, all these sorts of things. And reptiles are really interesting to me because they are such pure sort of life machines, you know. They like seek warmth and they seek food, and they don't seem to have much interest in social relationships. They're just sort of, you know, mechanical about their desires. And so I'm sort of using them as the primitive quality of a lot of them, sort of the idea that they're perhaps a kind of a metaphor for primitive, almost mechanistic survival impulses in human desire or human intention, as opposed to the monkeys who are both imitative and, you know, very close to human without language, kind of like Congress people. And that saw red in the landscape would either benefit from being able to go eat whatever had died there, or survive because they could run away from whatever was killing something there. And groups that didn't see red would either get eaten or miss out on the snack, you know. So there are reasons we see color the way we do, and we have associations with color the way we do that are both hardwired and historical and cultural. But in this case, this piece, essentially one piece. It's called the GMO bunnies. GMO standing for genetically modified organisms. And in the parent generation, it's sort of like Mendel's peas. In the parent generation, they're weird, but they still have some semblance of natural bunny color on them. By the time you get to the great-great-grandchildren, all the natural bunny color is gone, and what supplants it is the colors of commercial seduction, particularly the kind of commercial seductions applied to children's eating habits in high fructose corn syrup. And that becomes of interest to me because where we live, it's like we live in you know, it's corn, soy, adult bookstore, meth lab, corn, soy, corn. And so every day when I get up, I'm looking at this, what if you photographed it, would look like this pastoral classic American landscape. Little white farmhouses, little white meth labs. Actually, there's only that one. It was shut down, to be fair. But these cornfields, and then these farmhouses with porches, and, you know, American flags on the porches, and it looks very traditional pastoral. But the species being grown there are these bizarre, mutant, hybrid, genetically modified forms of corn that go entirely to produce high fructose corn syrup, corn starch, corn oil, and feed corn. So for the fast food industry. So it isn't natural. It isn't pastoral. It isn't. You know, in spite of the fact that it looks like it should be laden with all the mythologies of American abundance and independence and self-reliance, it's actually this weird, like, scary, sort of poisonous landscape. And that sort of interests me, you know, that discrepancy. So I'm being told that I need to.
One last?
Yeah, one last question.
So there's no relationship between these bunnies and Easter eggs? It seems so like Easter eggs.
Well, Easter eggs are a really weird example of, like, we want to, you know, it's like make eggs more exciting by take this like most natural of things, which also happens to be like a really narratively loaded cultural icon, and then make it hallucinogenic, practically. So yeah, in that sense, there's sort of a, I also did a series of guinea pigs that was based on pharmaceuticals. There are 4 of them right there, but the guinea pigs had the same colors of pharmaceutical marketing strategies. The other thing about they look like pills, I guess, is what I'm getting at. It's the shape, they're egg-like, but they're also like capsules. And I think that's kind of, it's kind of amusing. So I guess with that, thank you very much.